Hey bro, how's it going?
Good. That crunching noise really destroyed my ears. Thanks for asking.
Oh, sorry about that. I was just plugging the mic in.
Oh, no worries. It's all good, man. It's all good. It is, what is the date? It is the 18th of March 2020, and we have some unfinished business, I think, when it comes
Here we
to
go.
discussing our top 5 PS2 favorite games of all time, of all the times. Shall I do a quick recap just in case we've forgotten? Let
Might
me
as
just
well.
pull up the notes, pull up the old notes. Um, so at number 10, I had Tekken 5. At number 10, you had Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh
At number
yes,
9, I had Simpsons Hit and Run.
classic.
You had God of War 2, also a classic.
Mm.
I had at number 8 Medal of Honor Frontline, and you had Dragon Quest 8. Number 7, I had Tekken Tag Tournament from, wow, the year 2000, yeah, 20 years ago. And you had Jack and Daxter 3.
Ah yes.
And then at number 6, I had Metal Gear Solid 2. And you had uh, the
Canis
Latin,
Gaminet.
yes, I wanted to sound like, I'd done my homework, which I have. I just forgot the Latin name. I should have written it down. Wrote it down? What's the correct way to say that?
Written, I think.
I should have
Should
written it
have
down.
written. Should
It
have
doesn't
wrote.
matter because that's
Either way,
old news now. It's old news. It's old news.
doesn't matter.
We're moving forward to our top 5. So let me know when you're good to go.
I'm good to go.
All right. So then hit us with the number 5 in your top 5.
Straight into it. Okay, so I played the first one of this series, didn't really get far. I know the first one is quite beloved. The second one did not do very well, but that was the second one was the one I actually completed. I quite enjoyed the second one. But my favorite in the series is Devil May Cry 3, and I
Oh,
think a lot of
nice.
people agree with me there. It's just kind of perfected the formula of the first two, and had the kick-ass music, the action, the I don't want to say story, but it definitely added a lot of lore to the background, and it's just a lot of fun.
Was it
That's
the
the main thing.
same character? So it's I'm
It
guessing
is,
it's Dante, is it?
yeah. It's when he's younger, like he's a cocky teenager.
Oh, so it's a prequel or is it
Prequel,
chronological?
yes. I
Oh,
think
okay. So it
chronologically it's the
goes
first in the series.
so it well chronologically. So then is it 3, 1, 2?
Yes,
Okay.
and then
I
four.
know there's 4. Yeah. Is that more? That's
And then
more recent, isn't it? And then 5
yeah,
you were playing not too long ago.
yeah, and then there's five just came out as well. So as far as I know, three is the only one that is before the rest, and the rest just follow sequentially.
So it's like a DMC 0.
Pretty much, yeah. And then there's
Okay.
actually DMC, like Devil May Cry, which is like a separate timeline entirely. And
So
a lot
is
of
that
people
a
don't.
different character?
It's still Dante, but it's not this Dante, and it's it's just another thing entirely. It feels like I don't know what the purpose was of it was, since they didn't continue it and they ended up continuing a sequel of the main series anyway. So it's not like they rebooted it and continued with that. It's just a spin-off called the same thing. I don't get it.
Maybe they just wanted to give him a haircut because I don't know very much about Devil May Cry.
Hmm.
But is that the one where he's got shorter hair?
Yeah, he's got short black hair.
Oh, okay. Well, isn't that one of his signature things? Is his look? It's like he's, you know,
Yeah, they make him kind of bland, honestly. It's weird.
and this is on PS4.
I think it was last generation, DMC.
Okay.
Yes, I
It's,
never actually played it, but it was a while ago, so I'm guessing like PS3, Xbox 360 era.
uh, yeah. Well, there's a HD collection on PS3.
Hmm.
There is DMC. It's just called Devil May Cry. I think yeah, that's PS3.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
it's
So
it's they had to call it something there because the first one is just called Devil May Cry of the main series, so this one is called DMC Devil May Cry, I believe. That's
yeah,
the only
yeah.
difference.
That's what the Google machine is saying. Yeah.
Ah yes.
So you're going with Devil May Cry 3. So did you say you didn't finish it?
I didn't finish the first one. Well,
Yeah.
that's where a lot of people started. That's where a lot of people were like, oh, it's classic. I only played a little bit, I think, at our friend's house. Found the second one instead. Just
Was it
randomly.
was
I
it
thought, oh, I'll just
Marty's
give it a
house?
go. I think it was Rishi's.
Oh, okay. Because I remember Marty being quite into like Devil May Cry as well.
Oh yeah, it was quite popular back then.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I never really got into the series. I think I borrowed it from one of you.
oh yeah,
At some point, but I again, it was kind of like God of War for me. Like at the time, it wasn't my thing because
yeah,
I was playing other games like my number five, which is Metal Gear Solid 2.
perfect.
Actually, that's a lie. That's a lie. What am I on about? That
Yeah,
was my number
so, yeah, that
six.
was your
I
six. Yeah, I
can't
was
read.
confused.
It's all this. It's all this. All this news interrupting my brain. It's just throwing me off. But
There's
yeah, my true number five is a game that I also didn't finish, and that's partly thanks to you. It's Final Fantasy X from
yeah,
2002. It's an 18-year-old game, and I've gone back and I've been playing it since November. We are now in March. That's quite a long span for me to be going through a game. Usually, like I'll try and get through them quite quickly, or try and make time for games. But
mm,
I'm actually like having a love-hate relationship with Final Fantasy X. At the moment, we're in a good period of time. I haven't played it for a little while. It's like when you don't see it or see the significant other for a little while, it's like absence makes the heart grow fonder. So I haven't
exactly.
played it. But I remember complaining to you about it a couple of weeks or maybe a month back when I was just like, dude, I'm just fed up. Like I just
Yeah,
want the
you're on.
story to end. I don't care about the Summoner's Journey. It's been ending for ages now. They said the Summoner's Journey is coming to an end.
It
Um,
does get a bit bogged down near the end, admittedly. There's just
yeah, I
a lot of
mean,
text, but no progress.
I didn't believe anyone when they said, it kind of opens up. Like, okay, by the way, just full kind of spoiler alert. Like, I haven't finished the game, but I do want to talk about the points that I'm up
He's
to.
in the end
So,
game.
so I'm in the end game. I've gone past like Mount Gagazet. I have the airship. I'm kind of free to go wherever I want. And I didn't really believe anyone when they said, the game opens up and there's more things to do. And I'm just like, I don't want more things to do. I just want to finish the story because I've been playing this game for 18 years. So I just kind of want it to end now. And I just want to say that I kind of but then I took your advice and you said to take a break.
Hmm.
So I took a break. I played a bit of Tokyo Jungle. You know what? That goes into my honorable mentions. Tokyo Jungle is going to go into my honorable mentions because that game served its purpose as a palate cleanser. I took a bit of a break. And
Brilliant. I never heard of it, but I've got the urge to play it right now. I just don't have a PS3, so speaks
yeah,
to it.
like that night I was just showing you. I just wanted to share it with someone because it was such a like a not a hit. I don't know if hidden gem is like overused, but it's one of those things where like I'd never heard of it, and I always had it on the list because it was something that I wanted to play before moving back onto the PS4, and I didn't know that it was just like a shorter survival style game. Um,
Hmm.
but I can't even explain it.
It's such a
For
cool concept.
It's a cool concept, yeah. It's just kind of like what I explained to you, and for anyone listening, I would just say, just kind of look. But that's the thing. Even if you find a YouTube video, it won't make sense until you actually play it, and you kind of see that it's something unlike anything I've ever played. But yeah, I'm gonna stop talking about Tokyo Jungle. It's an honorable mention,
Nice.
but my number five is Final Fantasy X, and like it still holds up. It's one of the few games that's been on PS2. It's been on PS3. It's been on PS4. It's been on the
It'll
Nintendo
probably be on
Switch.
PS5.
I mean, you know what? I was recommending it to Anu the other day. I was like, you know what? Like, you can probably get this and still enjoy it. Whereas you recommending me Shenmue in 2019 is
Not gonna hold up
not
so
going to
well,
have the same
sadly.
effect. It's not gonna hold up. But that's again different. We've already talked about it. If you want to go and listen to us talk about Yakuza and Shenmue, it's somewhere in our backlog of videos. But yeah,
And
final.
be
Sorry,
sure,
go on.
be sure to catch up on the previous episode if you wonder why he's still playing it and never actually finished it originally. My
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. So that's just a little teaser for stuff you can go back and listen to. I really like the episode because it was. Sometimes when we're having the conversation, I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't know if we'll make it interesting. But then when I go back and listen to it and I edit it, and I'm like, this was a really good conversation. Like even at the time, it might not, the ones
It
that
was a lot of
felt
fun.
good, yeah, are more fun when I kind of listen back to it and I kind of see like objectively what we're kind of talking about. But yeah, Final Fantasy X, brilliant game. I don't know. I mean, it's probably up there in terms of my favorite JRPGs,
Hmm.
along with
You and half the world, I'd say.
yeah, because I mean, I really liked Nino Kuni, but that was on the PS3.
Hmm.
I'm not too into like I think you've played more than I have, to be honest. Like you've played
I
like
think
the
so.
SMT series.
Oh crap! I just remembered one. I might have to rechange my list.
Yeah, you can do it on the
So,
fly. I mean, there's no rules here. We're just kind of talking, shooting the breeze.
I mean,
What?
if I haven't mentioned yet, as far as you know, it was there the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We don't know. We could just be listening to. Sorry, I got distracted. I was just looking at the Twitch chat. I just want to say hello to Green Chili Boy if you're still there. How are you? We're doing
Hello.
very well. Oh, I did. Was there any audio feedback coming through? I didn't
Not,
notice.
not for me.
You couldn't hear me in echo, could you? All right, that's fine.
Weird.
Um,
Anyway,
but yeah, Final Fantasy X. Like, what an amazing game, man. Like, I've actually I don't know how anyone could play this without a guide because for the longest time I was trying to avoid spoilers and I was getting near the end and I was like, oh man, like how many more boss battles? Like every time you think you're near the end, there's like another, and then eventually I kind of checked and there's still five, or at the time there were five big boss battles that I still had to do, and I was just, at that point I was just kind of like I just wanted to end, which is why I checked the guide. But usually I don't like watching trailers, I don't like watching previews. I just like to experience things for myself unless they go on for so long. It's just like I just want it to end. But it wasn't even that long into the game. I was like 40 hours in, and compared to like Final Fantasy 15, where I was like more than 100 hours in, I was
hmm,
still kind of invested. Whereas with this, I don't know why. It was just when someone dangles that carrot, like you're near the end, like in
yeah,
MGS4. But with MGS4, I think at the time we were kind of invested.
yeah, absolutely.
At the time.
It was paced better.
Yeah, like Whereas with this, it's like it's ending, it's ending, it's ending, and then 7 hours later, it's not ending. It's actually opening up to where you have a lot
Yeah,
more things to do.
just
So
had to
like,
get over that hump.
yeah, I don't think it's possible to play this like effectively without a guide, like to know where all the Albed primers are. And I ask you for so much, in terms of guidance. What should I
Yeah,
do? Where should I go? Do you recommend getting your Jimbo? You
it
know,
does speak of the game that I still remember a lot of it,
it does.
even after
I'm
all this time.
surprised, man. Yeah, I'm surprised you remembered a lot of this stuff and very accurately too.
Yeah,
Um, in terms of
surprising.
like
I mean,
locations of temples and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I mean, I guess even in your mind, I guess it's withstood the test of time, or it's very memorable at the like, when you were
I think
playing
because
it.
yeah, absolutely, because the point you're at now, where you have to be very specific, and certainly some things were very frustrating, and then as you were going through them, those were kind of dredged. Some like, oh my god, I remember doing this. I remember going for the exact same thing you're doing right now. It's
Yeah,
not this one. It's over there. That that
yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just crazy.
That's the things. Like mistakes here cost a lot of time,
Yeah,
and that's
that's
one of the things. It's kind of like if you kind
having
of
to
let it
redo half the
dominate.
temples.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's what I had to do. Like I literally like one of my friends was telling me to collect all the destruction spheres, so you can get the items. So then you don't have to fight the dark aeons, or some of the
Mm-hmm.
dark aeons are guarding the temples like later on. So
Yeah, they just stand in front of it and just cause a
yeah,
whole bunch of problems.
yeah. I mean it's
With no
annoying
warning.
because I yeah yeah they're just there. I don't know why they're
Yeah.
there, but they're just defending the.
Yeah, there's no like story implication or anything. It's like,
No.
oh yeah, there's just super badass versions of them just here for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, I'd heard whispers, in my not my subconscious, but like in your peripheral hearing, like you hear about the dark aeons and they're guarding the standing. And my friend did tell me to get the items, and I was like, nah, I'll be fine. I'll just play the game how I want to play. If I figure out the temple completely and I get the destruction fear, then I'll take the
Yeah,
item. If not, then whatever. Let's just keep moving with the story. But then you get to a point where you're like, you know what, like I need Yojimbo because
seriously, yeah.
you Google his autobiography and stuff. You go on his Wikipedia page. He's like the guy when it comes to like destroying enemies. So kind of went
He's the
back
cheese
and
master.
yeah. So at that point, I was kind of like, oh, actually, you know what? Actually, I don't mind exploring a bit more openly. And then I kind of fell in love with it again, kind of doing all of these other things, getting anima. Yeah, I got anima now, so that was pretty helpful.
Fantastic.
And the
He's
Magus
just
sisters,
me- yeah,
very powerful.
it's just fun. Like the ultimate Aeon. It's a bit unorthodox because I don't know if the Mega Sisters were in many other. Because you play Final Fantasy 7, you play Final Fantasy 8, you see the regular like Bahamut, Ifrit,
Yeah.
Shiva, and there are some that aren't in this one. They were in those ones. I think Mega Sisters were introduced in 9, but not before then.
Okay.
So they're relatively new to the series at this point.
Yeah, I saw like they were in one of the card games. Was it Bravious something? Decidius?
Brave Exvius, or
Yeah,
yeah,
one
something
one of
weird.
those titles. Yeah, one of the card games. So they're in that. Um, but yeah, it kind of gets interesting again where you're like really powerful. and
Yeah.
you're able to do like massive amounts of damage, and it kind of opens up again. Where it's like, okay, well, I actually do want to go back to Mount Gagazet and capture all the Pokemon and take them to the Pokemon trainer at Niantic's booth, you know.
But see,
Um,
it gives you freedom at that point. Before that, for like a good few hours, you're railroaded into doing something that is just slogging you along.
yeah.
But once you have that, that agency again, you're like, oh, actually, I can just enjoy the game. I can finish it if I want to, but
I
I can
think I think
choose.
it's a balance because then again, if I try look at doing the ultimate weapons, and one of the things I have to do for Tidus is to do the chocobo race and get a time of 0 by catching all the balloons. Like that is tricky. On top of the fact that
Yeah,
like the controls for chocobo racing are not good.
no, they
They
didn't
I
upgrade
think
those over time.
yeah, I think the chocobos overstayed its welcome, just like this entry. So let's just keep it rolling.
Do,
Um,
do, 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 do,
so let's
do,
go
do,
to
do.
your number 4, I believe. So
Number
you had
4, yes.
DMC3 at number 5, and at number 4 you have.
Number 4. It's another JRPG, and I think you're aware of the sequel to this. I actually think
Okay.
it's on your list to play. It's Persona 3 FES. Don't ask what
Yes.
FES means.
Yes, I've been wondering that. This is great you brought it up because I need to know what it means. Because FES is it just like from all the research and dorking around I do when it comes to, wasting time researching games rather than actually playing them. Like from FES, what I remember was it was like an enhanced edition of like 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, exactly. There's an entirely new, not story mode, but an extension to the story. It's like an extra dungeon that expands on what happened originally. There's a
Okay,
few extra like side bits and mission. It's been a while, but it's the complete edition that they didn't sell originally, which is a bit skeevy, but
but isn't that what Pokemon do like all the time?
yes, exactly.
Because I know
So
that's one thing I never understood with Pokemon as well. Why they do this thing where it's like we're gonna release 2 versions of the game, and
mhm.
then like we're gonna release Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which is kind of like the enhanced version of those original games. But there's also two. Like it is good for you in terms of your business because they've got a legacy product, like in Pokemon. But
Yeah,
I've noticed it with Persona 2. So yeah, there was not Persona 2, but Persona 3. I don't know if there was
and
I think Persona 2 was a SMT game, wasn't it? Probably.
yeah, they were. Persona was always been. There's been the SMT games. I think there's 1, 2, 3, and 4 came out recently. The Persona games are a spin-off, so they're like Shin Megami Tensei Persona. No, sorry, they're entirely separate. I don't know. There's the Shin Megami Tensei games and the Persona games, but the
It
Persona 1
is.
and 2
It is
were
very
were
confusing.
like 3 or 4 generations ago. So they're very niche. Persona 3, as far as I know, it's like the GTA 3 for this series. It's like, oh, suddenly it's mainstream, it's big, it's popular, it redefines a lot of things.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was also, I think, the first foray into the Western audiences, which is so it's popular in both
Yeah,
spheres, cultural spheres.
I mean, yeah, I mean, in terms of like mainstream JRPGs, like that comes to mind, and the other would be like what Final Fantasy, I'm
Final
guessing.
Fantasy, yeah, and there's also Dragon Quest, but that's still
Yeah,
more Eastern.
yeah,
It's
because
still quite popular here, but yeah, Final Fantasy definitely a big one.
yeah, because I remember like even when we were kids, I remember seeing at one of my friends' house. I just remember seeing the white case, the PS1 case, with just the Final Fantasy. I think it was like 7 or 6, or one
Oh
of them.
yeah, the art style's always been great on the
Yeah, it's
front.
consistent, you
Mm,
know. So yeah, even then, I remember it being like available in like the Western market and stuff. But with Persona 3, was it FES or is it FEZ? I don't know. Like,
I think FES stands for festival. Like, as far as I know, that's what I remember from researching years ago. Something like that.
okay, so did you finish this game?
I did. I didn't get the ultimate form because to do so basically, not really spoilers, but the way the game plays is like your
Dude, I bought
main.
Persona 4 for PS2. I don't know if I'll ever play it.
Mm, I hear
It's
that's also really good, but
it's
at
still
that time
sealed.
I was kind of burned out with 3.
Yeah.
I kind of skipped it. I'm looking forward to playing 5. But
Hmm.
basically, your character is they kind of have forces of character. They have their id, their inner like subconscious, and it fights for them in battle.
Right.
So that's a very dumbing down version of it, and they summon it in battle, and then so your your character is unique, I guess, in a way, in that when he forms bonds with other people, both they and him are strengthened by it. They're called social links. Um,
Okay.
It's uses like a tarot deck kind of thing. Like, certain people you meet symbolize certain. There's like one who's death, one who's was it faith, or the jester, or uh, some, something like that. So every time you meet these people in your life, the closer you get to them, the stronger the link becomes, and the more powerful you can become as a result. But to do so, because it's there's a limited amount of time in the game, each day happens sequentially. So you have a like the calendar. It happens in high school as well, and we can all relate to high school.
Mm.
So as a teenager, because Japan loves their high school and they love their teen years. Um,
Yeah.
so it's happening over the course of the school year. So you have to balance your classes and your extra curricular activities, I guess, as well as your social links. And because some people are only available certain days, some people are only available in the evenings. Some like a lot of
It
people are
sounds a
available
lot
at
like real
the
life,
same
man.
time
It
slot.
sounds
Yeah,
like
it's
micromanaging your life, I guess.
there is an aspect of that, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Um, but so you can, yeah, you try and kind of get a grip. There is some leeway, but if you're not careful, you will run out of time, and you end up, if you're just playing a casual game, you kind of just focus on the people you like most, which is fair enough.
Which is just like life, right?
Exactly, yes. But unlike life, I guess, there is an ultimate persona that only unlocks when you reach the max social link in all the social links.
Is it called Tony Robbins? Because I can
I
imagine
think
that
the
being a thing.
because his first one's called Orpheus, which I think is a Greek um, hero
Okay.
character. Anyway, and the main one is called Orpheus Telos, which is some kind of I don't know expanded
So
awareness
so
thing.
this is a persona you can summon, or is it you have to defeat?
It's like your starter Pokemon. The first one you get
Okay.
one for free. That's your one. That's your unique one, and then you can kind of in similar Shin Megami Tensei style, you end up being able to summon magnitudes more. You can summon basically every character. Like I don't know, have you ever played a Persona or a Shin Megami Tensei game?
I have not, but I'm
Okay,
very excited to play 5 Royal or Royale.
five
Royal? It's Royal, I think, yeah.
five I've heard is really good, so I'm
Which is actually
putting that
out
aside.
in, unless there's any delays or anything that, unforeseen, it should be out within the next 2 weeks.
Fantastic. This is nice and timely then. But you know how in Final Fantasy X or the Final Fantasy series, a lot of characters, enemies will make like the Malboro we were talking about. They're like
Hmm.
fan
Yeah.
favorites, so it's the same thing in this. You'll see many different, uh, sorry, many similar faces, and you can summon them all as your own personas.
Okay, so they have like things that are tied throughout each game or kind of familiar
Yeah,
characters like the Chocobo.
yeah, they'll keep coming back, but
Okay.
the story's different. Like it's a different world each game, as far as I know. But yeah, to get the it's the same thing you were saying earlier. Like most Japanese RPGs, to get the most out of the game, you will need to play with a guide by your side.
Oh, so you
But
can't just see. This is the thing. I like jumping into things and just kind of doing it, but then when you get to like when you really enjoy it, like when you're like 60% of the way through, and then you're kind of like, I wish I would have gotten the Albed primers in home because now I can't do it, and there's no
yeah,
way for me to get that. Like
if if there's no missables and you can search later on and go back and get them all, then it's no problem. But if they're missable and the only way to do it is to restart the entire game, then
that kind
that's
of
just
sucks.
unfortunate. Yeah, because then it's I know it like adds replayability or whatever, but a lot of the time you're not going to do it, and it just ends up being a regret.
You're not going to want to. Like, see, this is the so to take a quick aside. Like, this is the issue I have with games sometimes. It's like when you really enjoy them, and then now because of whatever dynamics have changed and there's trophies. Like we never had trophies in games like say 20 years ago, whatever. But like
Yeah,
now it's kind of an incentive, and it's a good incentive. Like I don't dislike trophies. It's just the fact that there's certain games that don't get that balance. They don't hit the nail on the head. Like Death Stranding
mm,
is an example of that. Like to go again to the side. Like I love the game. I love the experience. To call it a game is an insult. That was an experience. It was amazing. But the fact of the matter is, like once you're done with it, like the amount of extra legwork you have to do that is just tedious and that kind of has no meaning. I mean, I'm guessing you could. It's kind of one of those things you could just put on a podcast and kind of just go through the motions. But it's so that platinum is so far away that like
hmm
you don't want to bother with it because you'd just be starting something else. And at that
yeah,
point, I feel
it's
like it will become a game that I would actually despise from ending on a high note of something you really enjoy. That's why when I kind of finished with it, I was like, I'm done. This was great. I don't want to let it become a bad memory, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's kind of similar what happened with this Persona 3. Like, I love the game. It was a great experience. I played it casually. I think near the end, when I got into the end game, I did look up stuff online. That kind of, what can I do now to kind of get the most out of it? But there were some things not missable, but because I'd missed so many opportunities, I guess, to max out social links, I realized I was never going to max them all out by the end of the school year.
So were
So
there
I was like,
certain
oh, well,
characters you couldn't get after a certain, month or
not that you
something?
couldn't get. I think you can unlock them all, but you don't have enough time to spend with all of them if you don't manage your time effectively. So you
Okay,
can't
so you
max them
really
all
got
out
to
in
figure
time.
out who you like and what you want.
Yeah, I mean there is a guide. There's multiple guides out there to kind of say, okay, well, this day talk to this one, this day talk to this one, this day, and you can do it, which does take the fun out of it. So it really is kind of more for a replay, I guess, because there is
Yeah.
that element of like, oh, I can, you got to juggle a lot of things in the air, and like for your first time playthrough, it's like that is half the game. It's figuring it all out, trying to make the most of it, and I did have a lot of fun with it. That is a regret now not getting that final.
If they were to remake it, would you play it again on the PS4?
If I had the time, yes. I don't though.
Yeah,
That's
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 the
that's
that's the
the
gist of it.
unfortunate truth. I think for a lot of people, it's just like. But then again, having said that, I know of like maybe a less than a handful of people that actually played Persona 5 more than once. I know I can
Okay.
off the top of my head, I can definitely think of two people that I know that have either played it twice or are playing through it a second time or are gonna play Persona 5 Royal when it comes out, which is
Hmm.
not too far from now. So I mean, that says a lot. I mean, if it's 100 and something, was it 100 between 100 and 120 hours to complete that, and if people are willing to do that again, that's like wow, it must be good.
Yeah.
But
And I mean, I like to
again,
think that if you play it
sorry.
again, it'll go quicker. But there's still a
Yeah, I mean,
significant time investment
I
twice.
don't know if I would play Final Fantasy X again because before I started on PS3, I had this whole dilemma where it's like, should I just buy it on the PS4? That way I can, at least maybe stream it or record it or
Mm,
use it for footage or at the very least talk to people while I'm playing, just on the headset.
yeah.
Because on the PS3, you can't really do it. I can't really do any of those things. But when I was going through the early stages, I was, oh, this would be so cool to show to you because there'll be
Yeah.
certain points that we have like nostalgic associations with. Um, but then after some
Absolutely.
time, I'm like, like when I was telling you about the Blitzball game, I was like, I actually managed to win the story Blitzball game, the tournament or whatever, the part of the.
Yeah.
So like
Great
I
job,
remember
man.
doing it the first time and it being really difficult, and this time around I kind of figured it out. So it was like really satisfying in that it's like a really it's like a release of
Grow.
happy hormones after so many years. It's like, oh, look what I did, kind of thing. And then after some time, I'm kind of like, actually, I don't know if I would play this again, like on the PS4, because initially it was like, yeah, I would play this again. But back to your thing about time, like these JRPGs, they're huge. It's no joke.
Yeah. I had the same feeling while you were playing it. I was getting nostalgic. I was remembering everything, just going, oh wow, that was so fun, it was so cool. And the remaster does look pretty good, I will say. So I did get the urge to, just pick it up again. Oh, we can go through it, but then
I mean, if
rational
you
thoughts.
had a save that was like finished, as in you'd finished the game, you'd probably want to go back and maybe do side stuff or just explore a bit or
Yeah, just
you
pick
know.
up anything I missed before. And but yeah, like it would. It's not feasible. I've done it before where I've tried to replay something, and it doesn't quite hold up. Or once that initial rush of like, oh wow, it's so cool to be back. Once
Yeah,
that wears off, you get into it's like, oh wow, now I remember. Because I've done this before, it's not as exciting, it's not as interesting.
yeah.
So now it's just a slog, and like, why am I playing this now? And then there's always the risk, like, what if I just stop playing a third of the way into the game, and then that just becomes a disappointing memory rather than leaving it as the little joy that it was.
Like the Power Rangers.
Yes, that some things do hold up.
Yeah,
It's always the
I
risk
mean
going
that
back.
was that was yeah. I mean, if you're trying to seriously get into it, yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. But it was good for what it was, and let's
Yeah,
just leave it at that sort of thing.
I
And
mean,
and
on the
with
same in
go
the
on.
same vein. Sorry, me and my wife have started watching. Well, not just started. Like we're about 199 episodes in. Nearly watched 100 episodes of the original Pokemon anime,
Oh
and
wow,
it's
Netflix. Is it on Netflix?
it's weird. They only have the first 58 episodes or so. It doesn't even
Okay.
fit. Like it's called the Indigo League. It doesn't actually get to the bloody league. It ends like 6 or so episodes before the actual tournament starts. They don't even
Oh
have the
wow.
full
Okay.
season one. It's just weird. But yes, the first few episodes are on Netflix, minus the banned ones.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, there's things like that that we kind of go back to. Some of them hold up, some of them don't. So if Persona 3 was to do a remake, you would consider maybe playing it if you had the time. Okay.
If I had the
That's
time, but with
yep.
Persona 4 and more likely Persona 5 out, I'd rather just play that. I
I
feel like it would capture the feel
I think
much.
I've kind of like I'll still enjoy 4 and 5 because 4 is quite old, and then I went and bought it for the PS2.
Mm,
And you know that gets another honorable mention because like I've never played it. It might have been on the list, but it's not. So I can't speak on it. But I've heard very good things about like Persona 4 Golden on the PS Vita. But that's something I would again is another investment. I wouldn't just go out and as good as it might be. Like there's enough content in our lives. I don't want to go
absolutely, yeah.
out
And they
and
keep bringing out more.
yeah. I've actually enjoyed like again going off us on a tangent. Like I've enjoyed things more now that I've kind of increased my sensitivity to like gaming and like other. I haven't watched much TV to be honest.
Yeah,
I've just
that's
been
fair.
doing IRL stuff, and then obviously when I come back to gaming or TV, I'm like, oh, I quite enjoy this more than I would have.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, Persona 4 and 5, I'll probably give it a chance. I had Persona 3 Fez on the list, but I just never bought it, and I think it's like it's one of those unless they do something in the future. Like I don't think I would go back to kind of play it.
Yeah. From what I've heard, Persona 5 is objectively better anyway, so if you play that, you kind of get the experience.
Yeah,
Unless you wanted to really dedicate time and effort to playing 3, then 4, then 5, but that would probably burn you out, honestly.
yeah. Persona 5, like I've heard, like everything's like really lovingly made. So it's like I'm excited to play that. Whenever it may be. Whenever I finish Final Fantasy 10, like we'll move on at some point, and
Absolutely.
we'll do some Persona. But yeah, that's good, man. So you finished Persona 3. Was that the only one you've completed, or is there
I
like
haven't
any other
I
Atlas
haven't
games?
played 4. I've played an honorable mention, let's call it that. It's
Yeah.
called Nocturne originally, or Lucifer's Call in the
Oh
West, I
yes.
think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun. It was a much darker, grittier one with less story. It's more of just the experience of trudging through a post-apocalyptic world as a what is he? He's called the Demi-Fiend. He's basically a human that's been granted demonic powers as both himself and as a leader of them as well. And you get to
Okay.
kind of choose. There's a few other humans who survive as well, and each one, it's like it's the power of creation. It's like it's a new world being ready to be made, and humans have the power to choose. So it's you and your few friends, each one with trying to find their own way, and like, hey, what do I value? What do I want this world to be? One, I think, is he wants everyone to have their own separate dimension in a way, is like where they can just live in peace and tranquility for all eternity. Another one wants a world governed by the strongest, like the survival of the fittest, which is suits well for demons, I guess. I can't remember what the other one was. Probably
I remember
boring.
you sending me some funny screenshots of like some kind of lewd references to boss battles and stuff.
Oh yeah, there's a few of those. And one of the reoccurring monsters called Mara is a rather suggestively phallic creature.
I'll Google it later, yeah, because I don't know
Yeah,
who's listening right now. But I'll definitely Google it later. So your number four
yeah,
was Persona 3.
yes,
Um,
absolutely.
my number four, and I might get some flack for it being number four and not higher up on the list, but like
Oh yeah.
that speaks to like my justification of my top three. But we'll get to that. But my number four is like a lot of people's favorite Metal Gear of all time. It's Snake Eater. So Metal Gear Solid 3
Mm,
Snake Eater is at
absolutely.
number four. And
Dun, 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 dun.
I mean, what a game, man! Like,
Wonderful experience. Just
I
all
think
like
did you played
it's
three,
hard to
right?
talk about. I did. I loved it.
Sorry, what were you gonna say? It's hard to talk about.
It's hard to talk about it without saying things that people don't already know or agree
Yeah,
with.
I mean,
So
I don't want to say, I don't want to repeat the same things, but like, I
it's
mean,
something of a it's, it's something of a masterpiece. Let's just leave it at that.
yeah, I mean, definitely
Beautiful
like
experience.
for me, it's definitely 10 out of 10. Um, Okay, let's talk about something that people might be able to relate to in a sense of like I'm not going to tell you how great the game is. I think everyone knows how good the game is, and there's a lot of people's favorite in the series. But I remember when it had come out, like I remember swimming regularly at the time. So it released in 2004. So I remember like it might have been around the summer. I'm not entirely sure, but I remember like going swimming regularly, and then I remember talking to Dips because we were both kind of stuck on the end,
Mm. Oh
which
yeah,
is a
that was
boss
fun.
battle. Yeah, with this really old guy who's a really good sniper, and he relies on the sun because he's
And
main like
he had a
he's
huge field as well. It wasn't just like a couple of screens. It was like
no
four massive areas, and he was just randomly hiding in.
yeah.
And you
So
could walk
he'd like
past him.
a few different like maps. It was like the biggest boss battle I think I'd seen, like or the longest. And we were trying to
Yeah,
discuss like strategies for how to see him. And obviously back then, one of the things I think that's important is like there it wasn't HD, so this is the original PS2 version of the game. It's hard to see on your screen, like
and he
where
was
he could be.
camouflaged.
And he was camouflaged. It's very well done, very difficult to see, very difficult to find, very frustrating.
Hmm.
Um,
It was
and
the opposite of a lot of like if you play sorry to interrupt like Final
so
Fantasy X or Dark Souls or something, you had a boss battle. It's like epic dramatic music kicks in. It's this big thing boss bursts through a wall, and it's just like oh my god, it's time to like fight for my
yeah,
life. And then there's this guy who just shows up and he's like it's quiet, it's tense, and it's like he could
it's
be anywhere. It can
yeah,
last for
you
hours.
really have to listen. You have to use your senses. You have to kind of listen. And this is before we would even plug in headphones. When we play, like now, most of the times we have our
Yeah,
headsets on. This was like you had to pay attention to the sounds, to the animals, and all these kind of things. And he was so difficult to get to. And then when you finally get to him, it was so rewarding. Or when you can kind of
yeah,
sneak up behind him and oh, what a
and if
what a
it's
crazy
beautiful.
what a crazy
And
idea. So
yeah, and if you didn't capitalize on it, he would just escape, and you had to do it all over again.
yeah, it's wow, yeah, man. It was such a unique boss battle, and I remember being frustrated at it as well. So I just left it for like a week or two, and then obviously come back to the game. Well, I say obviously now in retrospect, but at the time I didn't know this would happen.
It's
So
just part of
it,
the beauty of the fight.
yeah, this was yeah, and this is another thing that has kind of made the Metal Gear series kind of use devices that were
Unique.
outside of the box, whether it was like in MGS1 when you face Psycho Mantis and you have to change the controller port, or in
It's the game outside the game.
yeah, it's the game outside the actual game, which was like coming back to after a week, or I think it was a week, or maybe it was 2 weeks, and you find that the end died of old age. Like how crazy is that? Like stuff like that had never been done before using the
Yeah.
system's internal clock. As far as I'm aware, it had never been done where it uses the system's internal clock to kind of gauge, what day you started doing and what day in time you started the
You
boss
just
battle.
yeah,
And
you just show up and he's just died while waiting for you, and you're just like, was it was anticlimactic, right? It's like, oh,
yeah,
what?
for me, I was glad. I was like, I couldn't beat him, so I was like, yes, he's dead. But at the same time, it's just like, I mean, there's other things you can do as well. So like, there's a scene I think before. Okay, spoilers by the way, because I,
Oh
for
yeah,
one, I'm one of those people that respects the fact that there's a game that's been out for 18 years and you might not have ever played it, like Final Fantasy X. So I'm just saying, spoiler alert.
hmm
There's a scene where they actually wheel him out,
he's
and
gonna
if you
yeah,
finish
because he's an old man.
yeah, so they wheel him out. He's an old man, and if you skip the cutscene quick enough and pull out your sniper rifle and shoot him while you're in the chair, you actually don't have the boss battle sequence with him because he's dead.
You
That's
just
the
cheese the
easiest
whole
time to kill
fight.
him. Yeah, you can cheese the whole fight, but then obviously they're replaced with like I think Russian soldiers that are patrolling the area. But it's still,
Ah,
granted, a lot easier than taking on the end. So every time subsequently that I'd ever finish that game, you best believe I got him in a wheelchair.
just pow.
That's it.
It's like, I
Yeah,
don't have
no,
time for this old
I don't
man.
have time for this. I don't have this time for this photosynthesis battle like with you because it's just too long. But yeah, man, there were so many things that kind of also in terms of the story and the history of like the character. And I remember when the game came out after we got screwed. I say screwed over, but we didn't know who the protagonist was going to be in MGS2, and then obviously with MGS3 coming out, we're like, who are we actually going to get to play as? Because, pardon me, there was speculation about who
Mm,
you'd be playing as, and obviously well, you're still not Solid Snake. You're Big Boss now,
yeah,
so
I love how after the debacle that was too. They're like, okay, people want Snake, but we don't want to just. We want to keep introducing new ways of doing that. We need to still give them a tutorial. That's why Raiden was originally introduced, because you can't just go straight in as a, seasoned veteran and be talking about like, oh, how do you turn left? Oh, how do you stealth kill or whatever. So it's like,
Yeah,
okay, let's play. No, it's it looks like Snake, it acts like Snake, but it's not. It's his dad, or is it? Whatever, we don't know.
we don't know
It's
yet.
it's an exact duplicate for all intents and purposes, but it's not him, so you can still treat him like a newbie.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah. But he
and
was
then they
at the
did the same
time. He
thing.
was still new. The whole Halo jump. This is before he became a legend. So like, there was a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
pieces that made sense in
It,
terms of. It was so good. Like even the end sequence might be my favorite end sequence because it was so
oh,
like action film style. If that makes sense. Like from
absolutely.
fighting Volgin to coming out and being on the bike with Eva to her falling over and then doing the battle with the boss at the end. It was so like it was
And
so
the music,
yeah.
absolutely.
It was so good.
They made a again, not to spoil it for anyone. Again, go play it if you have the chance, if you haven't already. But this, they made climbing a ladder epic.
Yeah, I remember that. That was really good. That was
Just
really well done, and it lasted just as long as you were climbing. So it was
yeah, it was
perfect.
well crafted all round. It's beautiful, and it didn't go too serious that it didn't feel like a game, but it didn't go too wacky that you couldn't take it seriously. So it found a lovely balance.
I think one
And
of the things. Sorry, go on. You might as well finish.
so yeah, whereas Persona 4 might be too much of a time sink, if they remade, finally, maybe ever, they actually did a proper MGS3 Snake Eater remake on PS4, PS5, I would snatch that right up.
So, at the time of recording, like I mentioned, it's 5:45 on the 18th of March 2020. I have some news for you. So,
Mm.
it's not breaking news, but I think it's out there now that PlayStation and Kojima, I think they had some negotiations with Konami in regards to Silent Hills.
Oh, interesting.
So, by the looks of it, Silent Hills 5 is going to be on PS5.
Fantastic. And they'll probably
And
like work the VR into it as well, so you get like
yeah, but
Silent Hill
the thing is,
VR.
like, no one really cares about Silent Hills. Let's be honest. We're here for Metal Gear Solid. So some of the news I think I heard about this morning was the fact that, um, yeah. So I think they may relinquish the rights to Sony and Kojima. Um,
Interesting.
so yeah, we might be seeing some some I don't know, maybe a collection or a Metal Gear remake or
It's the dawn of a new age. Who knows?
something. Let me just have a quick look at the
Sure, sure.
headline. So
While you
obviously,
talk about, while you
sorry,
do
go on.
that, because if I'm being completely honest, since my next one, my number three, is actually Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. So
Okay,
I'm
perfect.
glad we
Yeah, so
covered.
we had it. Yeah, we were there. So I'm gonna write that down. So you had MGS3 at
Okay.
number three. So you had
What
it
I might
slightly
do,
higher than I did.
yeah,
No, that's fine.
I
That's
just
perfect.
what I might do instead, or as a not a kind of tie-in honorable mention, is instead substitute it for Peace Walker. It's a sequel,
Oh,
I'd
honorable
say,
mention. Okay, all right. Yeah, yeah.
just so we can kind of extend it, so I don't just skip over my number three entirely. But
No, no, no. That's good because obviously, like, we're not gonna skip over. We're just continuing. It just flows right
yeah, yeah,
into. We're still talking about MGS3. So
absolutely.
I found the headline. So it says rumor spreads that Sony wants to buy Metal Gear, Castlevania, and Silent Hill from Konami for PS5. That would be freaking
Castlevania as
amazing
well.
because we know they're not doing anything with it. I mean, the
No,
last
they
thing they
hate
did for
gaming.
MGS3 was the pachinko machine, and I didn't even see it when I was in Japan. So I
That
don't
was a
know.
slap in the face to everyone, and
And
I
then
think
those
that's
Metal
that's
Gear
what they inherited.
Survive, which
Oh, travesty
I
all
don't
around.
even know. I don't even know what to say. Like I never played it. As a diehard fan, like like just leave it. Like stop.
Yeah, like, it's not even a complete game. Even if it didn't have the deliberate slap in the face for all the fans and calling it MGS to begin with, it's just a poorly made game. It's not even
Yeah,
finished. It's just a cash grab.
it is. It is just yeah. I mean, it would do it some justice if those franchises were just to trade hands and go to somewhere where they'd be kind of at least have a chance of being kind of honored, like in terms of a legacy or having some kind of a bundle come out or because I
Yeah,
mean, without that, like the series is pretty much dead in terms of like it's you know it's not going to be reproduced in any fashion. Do you know what I mean? Like
Exactly. Just
Uh,
like Norman Reedus in Death Stranding, give Kojima his baby back.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. One last thing I want to say about MGS3 is obviously with the HD remaster, even on PS3, um, the boss battle at the end, like you can see the boss. I
Mm.
remember originally on the PS2, and I know that sounds weird, but like on the PS2, obviously HD wasn't a thing back then. It was like the boss was almost invisible in that field of white flowers. You couldn't see her. Whereas if you play on the
Oh yeah.
PS3, the HD collection now on your HD TV or whatever, you can see exactly where she is. So it's kind of like I don't know if it takes away or adds, but it definitely gives you some perspective as to like you know, it's she's a lot more visible.
Yeah, I think it kind of works. It works both ways, I guess.
Yeah. If anything, it's just something to know. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah. So yeah, my number four was MGS4. Your number three was sorry, my number
No,
four
yeah,
was MGS3. Your
that was mine.
number three was MGS3. So now
Which
my number.
I'm
Sorry,
gonna
go on.
tie it with Peace Walker if you want. Like, just it does flow quite nicely into that, and it adds an entirely new gameplay element in terms of like, okay, in MGS3 you're the lone spy on an epic journey of a. It's like James Bond,
So you've
very
got
James
you've
Bond-esque.
got tied at number three. You've got Peace Walker and MGS3. Then is that one
Yeah,
point down?
'cause it's hard to think of them like it's like part one, part two in a way.
It is, yeah.
And I I loved MGS3, but I feel like overall, maybe just because it was longer, I enjoyed Peace Walker more.
Okay,
That makes
yeah.
sense. It wasn't like there wasn't any particular time where I was like, oh my god, this is the best game ever. But it was like, oh, this is cool. I love what I'm doing. I love building a base. I love what's being done and like all the audio logs. You get to know everyone on the base. You get to build a characterization. You get to slowly build something impressive that you can believe in.
It
And
really,
then you get
yeah,
to
it rewarded you for all those, little attention to detail that you pay. That was the game. That was what was
yeah,
rewarding about it. And the storytelling was also different because it was just comic book style.
and then
Um,
yeah, absolutely, and it had all these cool concepts like AI, morality, um, and when you're done with all that, you can fight giant dinosaurs. So
yeah, I mean, for me, I thought I spent more time on Peace Walker than I did on three because I was just doing a lot of grinding for stuff.
yeah, there is a lot of grinding.
Um, but even then, it feels like it was the kind of the baby for MGS5 because
Yeah,
MGS5 was kind of like Peace Walker on steroids.
I will. Yeah, absolutely. I gameplay wise, MGS5 is a lot of fun. It's fantastic to play. It's just a
Yeah,
joy.
but
It
Peace
plays
Walker
so
feels like
smooth.
more of a Metal Gear game.
Peace MGS5 is not a real. I feel is not a real MGS game. Peace Walker is the game that MGS5 should have been in terms of story.
It
You
had
know?
the perfect balance between what MGS5 is, or the good parts of it, and what makes an MGS game an MGS game. So yeah,
Yeah, and it was a good successor to MGS3. If you went straight from MGS3 to MGS5, I imagine it'd be quite a culture shock and very
yeah.
disappointing.
I just don't get the whole Kiefer Sutherland thing. Like, it kind of made sense. Again, spoilers for MGS5. If you haven't played it, feel free to skip ahead or mute us or go and play the game. But you might not be back for like 9 months. But it's one of those things where they chose him, and originally my kind of the way I tried to justify why would you make that move. At first, it was because there
Mm,
was all this talk about the Metal Gear Solid movie. So it's like maybe they're trying to get him in there as the voice of Snake, so that when the film comes out, they can cast him or he'll have something or some involvement with the film. You know.
yeah, like
Um,
they could have made it work. They could have done something. They could have even made it work in the game, but it was just weird. It didn't do anything for the game or anything around it.
so yeah. So then my next point of logical kind of this deduction would be that again I don't want to because you haven't finished the game. I don't know if you know what happens
MGS5?
in MGS5. Like
Yeah, I mean that's the thing I've heard spoilers about, and that's the sad thing. I love the MGS series. I love Peace Walker. I don't care about MGS5. That's
so the
sad.
logic. All right, I'm just gonna say. So the logic was that the character that you're playing with again is not Big Boss.
Oh yeah, it's
So that's how I
Venom
tried to
Snake.
justify. Yeah, so Venom Snake.
Yeah.
So I tried to justify it as Like, all right, so that's maybe why it doesn't sound like Big Boss. But then again, I'm not sure if you see the actual Big. Again, I don't remember, so don't quote me on this. But I don't know if there was a scene where you see the actual Big Boss and it's still Kiefer Sutherland's voice, because that would have then thrown that out the window too in terms of it being logical. Because that
Yeah,
should have been
that's
David Hayer's voice.
yeah, that's the problem. It's like they could have made it work, but if then they by doing this they either
It was supposed to
made
be a whole
the
moral
twist.
realization of like you are Snake or anyone can be Big Boss.
Yeah,
It's just a kind of a symbol. A Big Boss is a symbol. That was kind of the big moral kind of unveiling at the end, and it was like, all right, cool. But
yeah.
you still want me to
Which
do
is
all
again,
these missions in S rank to get a platinum? I'm not doing that.
yeah. But then by having Kiefer Sutherland having a different voice actor, it removes any kind of subtlety from the twist. It just gets people thinking from the beginning. It's like, oh, yeah, this guy doesn't feel like Snake. He doesn't look like Snake. He doesn't act like Snake. It's what or Boss,
So this,
Big
this is
Boss.
the thing that I didn't like. This the difference between Death Stranding and MGS5. Like Kiefer Sutherland, it was just a job to him. Like he just came in, did the voice of Snake. Yeah, it didn't actually
Yeah,
contribute anything to the legacy of the series. And this is my like fanboyness coming out now. But like the guys that worked on Death Stranding, whether it was Norman Reedus or all the names are eluding me now, Mads Mikkelsen or who was the guy? Oh my god, I just played it.
Guillermo
Not
del
even
Toro.
sorry.
Guillermo del Toro.
I don't think they used his voice actually. They used his likeness, but I'm not sure if that
No.
was his voice that they used. But they used the guy who plays Die Hardman. Uh,
Okay.
I forget his name, but they were really involved in like the game. They really were proud to be
Yeah.
a part of it, and they're always tweeting about it. And they felt like it felt like a labor of love. That whole thing. We can do a whole podcast about Death Stranding, but like
Yeah.
comparing that to like, and I know we shouldn't compare, but like comparing that to Kiefer Sutherland's role in like as Solid Snake in MGS5 just kind of felt like it was just another job to him. And Kojima might have felt like, oh, this is a big boost for us, or I don't know. But like the fans didn't care for it, I don't think, because I'm saying from my experience, I didn't give a shit. Like I would have much rather had like David Hayter be.
Yeah.
He is Snake. Like you know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
he is Solid Snake.
That's that's the ultimate problem with the game is that it's not made for the fans. It's not made. It's not. It didn't feel like a labor of love overall. Like you can tell Kojima's influence in it, but ultimately it was designed by the producers, Konami, rather than him. It's not for the fans. It's for the bottom line.
Yeah. So, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's still a good game. It's a great game. Gameplay is amazing.
Fantastic gameplay. Yeah. Great to play.
Um,
Terrible MGS game.
but
Kind of
yeah.
actually, honestly, it actually takes away from the previous game from Peace Walker. Like it's a lot of character assassination and just a lot of retroactive.
Because
Anyway, it's just weird.
Kazuhiro Miller is such a whiny little bitch in that game, and it's like
Yeah, they just destroy him.
he's nothing like the Master Miller in MGS1 that you kind of. Well, then again, I guess at that point it's not actually Master Miller. You're talking to the Liquid Snake, but even the portrayal of the character that he's trying to impersonate, like, is nothing like the Kaz Miller in MGS5. Like, I understand it. He's a bitter character because of things that have happened. He's very negative. But then again, you look at like Revolver Ocelot. He's nothing like either Ocelots. Whereas like in MGS3, you see the depiction of like a young,
Mm.
blue chip kind of leader
Yeah,
of the Ocelots. You know,
yeah,
and
that's
and
the
then
weird thing. Is like MGS3 and Peace Walker was part of like okay, let's bring in the old like the prequels in a way into the new one, and it served as a good bridge. And MGS5 was supposed to complete that, but it
yeah.
just feels so disjointed and out of touch. It doesn't work at all. Like none of the characters act like either
I
their
love
younger or older versions.
I love Troy Baker, but
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know
like
why he was cast as Revolver Ocelot in MGS5,
yeah, it
because
doesn't
I think the
fit.
guy before him was like Patrick Zimmerman or something. So he sounded like he had a bit of a Russian accent, or young Ocelot sounded like he had a bit of an American accent. It was like they were believable portrayals of a person at that point in their life. Whereas when you see him in MGS5, it's kind of like, okay, he looks like he's aging to the point where he's like the older Ocelot, where he's got his mustache and the hair is kind of you know,
Yeah,
reclining. What's the word? Receding hairline and stuff.
yeah,
He's getting older, I guess. But at the same time, he doesn't like. He sounds very American,
yeah.
compared to how Ocelot sounds in MGS2 or MGS1, where he's got that kind of a different accent. So
Just feels
it
like
was
another character in
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know if character assassination, but there was definitely a disconnect, between that Ocelot and the Ocelot. Same thing with
Yeah.
Snake. Hearing someone else's voice, Kaz Miller being, the way he was. Yeah, I mean, it's not the best. Yeah, it's a great game, not the best MGS game, but your number three was a tie between
Peace
MGS
Walker.
three and Peace Walker.
Yeah.
Um,
Anyway, we got off topic there. Sorry.
no, it's good. At least we went into it a bit. But I guess we can do
Yeah.
another. Like I say, we can do a whole podcast about Metal Gear and kind of have structured
Just
notes so we don't ramble. But
yeah. We can just bitch about MGS5 some more.
yeah, I mean, yeah, we could do that. My number three,
Yep.
to keep things moving, is also a game that came out in 2004. Um,
Hmm.
and it's a racing game by the name of Need for Speed Underground 2.
Ooh, one of the best ones. Thug.
Yeah, Thug 2. Um, I don't know. I don't even. Again, I think it's very similar to MGS3 in the sense that I don't think anyone needs me to explain why, because I don't think there's been a racing game, an arcade racing game that's come out since that was as good as Underground 2. There have been some, Most Wanted was okay, Carbon was okay, but I personally never got attached to them, which is why this is our top 5 list. This is our favorites. Fuck the actual Metacritic or whatever. But
Yeah.
for me, this has a lot of sentimental value as well, because I remember when it came out, I had it and then Vimal had it, and we would constantly be trying to upgrade our cars and race each other. So it has kind of that nostalgic kind of value for me, because I still remember the cars I had, in my I guess stable of cars. I don't know what it's called. In my garage.
Mm.
They're not horses, but yeah, stable garage of
Yeah,
cars.
horsepower.
Yeah, they have horsepower, so that's something. But yeah, I remember just the kind of the social interaction which we don't really have at the moment. So it's I remember taking my memory card to their place, and then obviously you put your memory card into someone else's PS2, and then you can actually race your car against their car. Obviously, you can do that now online, I suppose. But
But it was the first one that kind of really did that. It had it
yeah,
had a
it
more
was the
human
feel of
experience
it.
to it.
Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
I think it's a lot of people's favorite, and there was a tweet recently by PlayStation, I think, where they had a bundle of 3 racing games that they were on sale or something, and I just remember replying to that tweet and saying, I would trade them all away for a remake of Need for Speed Underground 2, because there's been so many. I think they've had issues with the studio and the developers and stuff like that throughout the years, and it passing hands and whatnot. But there've been certain claims, the claim is always it's going to go back to the roots of Underground, Need for Speed Underground, and
Yeah.
I don't think any game that's come out since then has kind of captured that same essence of that kind of arcade racer. For me,
Yeah,
anyway. I don't know. Other people might, beg to differ, but yeah, my number three is Need for Speed Underground 2, just because of the fact that it was a great game and I have some really good memories with it.
fantastic.
So that was my number three.
I mean, I
Um,
can
sorry, go
agree
on.
with you right there. I got exposed to it both by you and my brother, who
Oh,
loves
nice.
racing.
I didn't
Yeah,
think you'd played it, or I didn't think you was aware of it.
I'm not the biggest racing fan, but I can still enjoy it as a co-op experience. And but my
Yeah.
brother loves racing games, and that was his favorite. I think actually when I went to see him at Christmas, he was trying to get the remake
Oh,
on
nice.
PS4. So that's how much he loves it. He's trying to just rather than buy one of the new ones again, he's just going for the classic.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is. It is one of my favorite arcade races. Since then, there've been more simulation style, realistic races, like Forza Horizon and Forza 4, and that's on Xbox, so we don't talk about that much. But there's GT, Gran Turismo, that it kind of shifted over into simulating reality.
Yeah,
And
which
I much
it
prefer
was
an arcade racer. Yeah, I mean they're fun. Don't get me wrong, but I prefer an arcade racer.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so you're number two.
My number two. This I don't know how niche this is, but I rarely meet people who have played it other than online. It's another JRPG. I just realized I have a lot of JRPGs on my list. It's
Yeah.
called Legend of Legaia 2 Dual Saga.
Why have I heard
Uh,
of that? Legend of. Let me type that in.
it's possible you saw me play it. I don't know. I
Was
don't
there
really
a
talk about
demo
it much.
available at some point?
There was. I think that's why how I ended up playing it.
Ah, okay. Did you end up getting the full game? I'm guessing you
Oh,
did.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, loved it. again, one of those games you need a guide to get most of the stuff in the game, but I don't think there were any missables. It was
What
in
was it
this
similar to? I'm trying to see if I can pull
similar
something up.
to Final Fantasy. You can have three players battling at the same time, turn-based combat, but a bit more. I guess it was more like the art style was a bit quite similar to the blockiness of Final Fantasy VII, but with the more rounded edges of like 9, I guess, for people who've played those games anyway. So it had a lot of heart and charm about it, and I mean, it was. I guess now I look back at it, the story was very generic in ways like, oh, that so there's these supernatural creatures called what they called aeons, or it wasn't aeons, but similar thing,
Yeah.
elementals essentially, and some people there was like fire elementals, earth elementals, water, and whatever, and some people could draw their power from fight with them in battle, and
Okay.
supreme. Dang it. Anyway,
No, while
I
you're,
actually had it in my head.
I'm trying to look it up.
Yes, yeah. So you know, it starts out like every other game. You're a 17-year-old boy in a little village somewhere, and you learn to fight. You go through the motions, and you're protecting the village, and then suddenly you get attacked by the big bad dude of the day who wants to rule the world through supreme power and all that. And he has an evil empire. He nearly kills you, but then you awaken your power, and turns out you're also an elemental. It's great, and
Oh,
then you start
nice.
fighting. Yeah, and it really cool like fire element, like kind of like Ifrit, and he just punched the crap out of people with big flaming fists. But the main interesting thing about it, it wasn't just like press X to attack and then to select your special skills. It had mana arts, sword arts, like the art system. So essentially, as you grew in strength, you could chain together more combos in a way. So it's still turn based,
Okay.
but say at the beginning you could do like yeah, it was art. So if you do three in a row, you like left up down. So you do like left slash up slash down slash, for example. But if you
So
did them in the
was it
correct,
like QTE or
you pick them beforehand, and then uh, basically at the beginning you don't really know anything. But if you're doing like the right combo, say it was like down down up, that would be like up. That would unlock a special ability like uppercut slash, doing it in those particular orders.
Oh, okay, okay.
And those would be like the normal ones. They would like build up your adrenaline, for example. But then if you the more you got, like as you leveled up, you get 4 or 5 or 6, and then the longer you do, you can unlock like super slashes or whatever, depending on like he got a fire one. There was a water woman as well, and that was the interesting about it. You could be very creative in battle. It added a lot of fun and replayability to it, especially once you had like 9 or 10 combo commands to play around with, and you could once you unlocked one, you always know it. It adds to your list, but you can also chain them. So, if, for example, if you have the up up down, and the next one starts with down, you can go up up down and go straight into the next one. And then so you basically want to try and make the best combos with these because like the strongest moves will take your adrenaline. So you want to be like building adrenaline in combat and then using them for the ultimate moves. And you're trying to find a balance between like what if I chain together like two normal arts which build adrenaline and then end with a strong one, so you can just kind of like do this like the same do the strong ones every single turn. And there was a lot of like playing around and replayability. And if you didn't have a guide, you just wanted to find all of them. It didn't tell you if you had you unlocked 7 out of 10 arts. You just wanted to keep trying out every single combination for every single character. You know?
Yeah, I can imagine that being really fun because it's like old school gaming, because like
Yeah. It made
in
yeah
terms of that reminds me of Mortal Kombat because it was one of those things where like if you knew a fatality or one of your friends knew a fatality, they were like a god.
yeah
Like because they'd figured out I mean, for the longest time, I couldn't do a basic Hadouken, and it used to frustrate the hell out of me, man. So
mm,
it's always like yeah, I don't know. That's why I kind of like I'm comparing it to in my mind. It's like
yeah.
obviously
It makes
just
sense
playing
because like
around and see what happens, sort of thing.
obviously gameplay is a huge part of games, especially Japanese RPGs where you're going to be playing for 100, 200 hours. So the gameplay can get repetitive. So the fact that they made it not just intuitive and fun, but like replayable, and the combat became alive in a way. The combat became like a big part of the reason to play is to unlock all these things and unlock new characters and
Do you
find out
think
which characters pair best with each other. Yep.
to go off tangent again? Do you think like because obviously with gaming now,
Hmm.
we said that like it was kind of about the well before it was about the gaming in terms of like playing around and whatnot. Whereas I think now because there's such an abundance of options, there's
Hmm.
so many like you don't have to think much. Like if you get stuck, it's so easy to just go on a guide or go online and just try and
True.
figure out like what bit is you're stuck at. But like I found that if you kind of delay that and maybe just take a break. This is the thing. Like everything is very instant now. So like we want to get past it. We want to do this, and I want to get to the end of Final Fantasy X or whatever the example is. But instead of
Hmm.
that, if we just kind of take a break, like it doesn't happen. But before it would be like take a break for a week and then come back and see if you can solve the problem. Like, isn't that how you get the most out of a game or an experience? But I guess
Yeah.
we live in a time where like no one's got the patience for that. So you literally just go on Google, just type it in and be like, how do I figure out? But do you feel that that takes away from the experience?
Mm, I would
Because
say if you have the time and the effort, you should definitely like throw yourself at it in a way, because then you grow as a result. But I have been in situations where I've been put off by a game because I feel like it's too frustrating. It's not worth the time and effort invested.
yeah,
So I don't know if that's more because I have less patience, because I have, you have work, you have responsibilities. So it's like this is supposed to be my relaxation time. It's supposed to be me enjoying the limited time I have left
which is
in this
why I
world.
haven't played which is why I haven't played Dark Souls. I like your morbid thinking. You're on the right track now. As long as you consider everything in terms of like, you know, so I'm saying like with Dark Souls, like I haven't played it because it's like life is challenging as it is, enough as it is. Like I'm sure there's things you could accomplish outside of gaming, like that require that kind of attention that
Mm,
you'd be I don't know, man. I can't afford to invest that kind of that kind of unless I'm being paid for it or there's a specific
yeah,
reason. Like, I can't just play something like that where it's like it's gonna stress me out even more. No, I need something to enjoy. And I get it.
yeah,
I get it. Some people enjoy the challenge of it, but it's like you've probably never done. I was gonna say something very insulting, but I'm just gonna shut my mouth. I don't want to, repel anyone away. But like, there's enough challenging things in life to like go outside and play the game. Level
yeah.
up in
I mean,
real life.
different people play things for different things. Some people
Yeah.
want that result. They want to like, oh, I accomplished this. I did this.
I'll give
And
you
that's all that
okay. I'll
matters.
give you an example. Super Meat Boy is very fucking challenging, but it's so addictive. Like it's so like you have a headache trying to do some of these levels, but it's so addictive because you just want to because you believe you'll get to the next bit. But I don't mean that kind of a challenge. I mean like the ones where it's like it could be something simple. We just have less patience, I think. Like in terms of figuring things out, like in Legend of Legaia. Where you'd
Yeah,
want to put in all of these inputs and
yeah, exactly. A good game will have like a balance between
like rather
frustration.
than playing your way to the solution, you're kind of, I guess, you're not paying your way, but you're kind of just googling it, and it's like, all right, here's all the answers. Like
Yeah,
that's what I meant to say. Is that it kind of takes away from your kind of
yeah, I
playing
would say so.
muscles.
If you're not going to do it on your own, or I mean, again, there's a balance to share. Like if you want to just, I want my aim of this game is not to achieve the challenges, it's to complete the story. Okay, I'll do whatever I need to do to kind of get past the hurdles, and that's fine. That's your achievement. That's the way you want to run the game. Everyone is entitled to relax in their own way. Yes, in an ideal circumstance, if it's a challenge, you go past it and you achieve and you grow as a result. But we don't always have the time and patience for that, sadly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is the thing. That's what I'm saying. I've been enjoying it more now that I've kind of increased the potency of that stimulation, if that makes sense. Just not to sound very scientific, but like when you do less of something and then when you go back to it, like with Final Fantasy X, I enjoy it more. Or even if it's just like, if we didn't have so much paralysis by analysis or volume in terms of our entertainment, I think we'd enjoy our games more. But that's a whole different debate for a whole different day. Um,
Yeah.
But I do believe in it. I think we're very it's interesting now with the current climate of how things are going in the world and the times, when we're not gonna have when those kind of stimuluses are kind of forcefully kind of taken away from us, it's going to be very revealing. But usually I'd say we have so many games, so many things to watch, so much content. Like it's numbing in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
like you
know I'm
don't
going
need
off
to.
on a ramble, but like
It
we
feels like you
have,
don't need to work for it anymore.
yeah, we have more than we kind of need. And it's like if you don't like something, you don't appreciate it, fuck it, I've got another choice to click away or
Yeah,
to put in another disc because I'm not happy with it. And this is, it was, yeah. We'll get into that a whole another day
yeah.
because I can go on a rant about that. But so your number two was Legend of Legaia Dual Sagas.
Hmm.
Um, my
I
number
would
two,
happily play that again if they
yeah.
released a remaster. Your number
Okay,
two.
well, who were I think the developers were like Fresh Games when I was looking it up. I don't know if they're doing anything since.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything, but I did hear that when I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, Sony were
Hello,
bringing a bunch
Slayer
of.
Slave 666 TV. That's a very cryptic name. Welcome to the stream. Sorry, I cut you
Welcome.
off.
That's all right. Yeah, I remember when 2017, I think, when they were bringing a bunch of PS2 era games to the PS4. Not always remastered, just so you could play them. I think Jack and Daxter was among them as well. But they said they were going to release the thing like Legend of Legaia 2, but then nothing. They just kind of dropped the whole idea. So I don't know if it's gonna happen. But anyway, your number two.
Um, so yeah, I mean, my number. Going back on our lists, talking about remakes, I really want to see. Like, it feels like my number nine, Simpsons Hit and Run, has been on that kind of tip of the, from tip of the what's the term?
Give it the
It's
spear.
it's been
Tip of the
close
iceberg.
to getting that remaster, but it's just not. It's not
Yeah.
happened for whatever reason, and obviously Simpsons tied in with a lot of other properties, and I can
Just
assume it'd be more complicated to kind of do something like that, but it shouldn't be, man. Like I want to play that game
yeah.
again.
At least they
Um,
got a sequel.
they did.
Or was it The Simpsons? Not Hit and Run. The Simpsons Road Rage. The Simpsons. I think it's just called The Simpsons game. I might be wrong.
I might have to check that out. Actually, I've never come across it, or I might have, and I've just forgotten about it.
Hmm. It was
Um,
relatively recent.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, it was just called The Simpsons game. Released 2007. Is that it? That can't be it. Yeah, it was PS3. Wow,
Oh, okay.
PS3 was already that long ago.
Yeah. Time is flowing. Time is flowing, and we're at number two. And your number two, yeah, Legend of Legaia. My number two is a game that I think might be one of the best in the series, arguably, and that's saying a lot because there's been more than I don't know. Let's say it must be at least 20 games now because the most recent one
Wow.
was a whole load of garbage. I'm talking about a 2003 release, WWE SmackDown. Here Comes the Pain.
Oh yes, it's also my
So
favorite of the series.
So yeah, I mean 2K20. That's what I was referring to there. It's just a load of hot garbage. In terms of
That's a shame.
I think because I think Ukes
I heard
left,
a lot
which are
of
the
bad stuff, and I
yeah,
felt
yeah. I mean, there's enough information about that you can go out and kind of find for yourself. I mean, I'm not going to go into it, but it was a joke.
it's
Um,
just disappointing, really.
but I think in this era of PS2 games, there was always some substantial gain or some kind of improvement to the previous game, like graphically or in terms of we used to look forward to like match types and stuff like that. And again, this was in the era when it wasn't easy to get new information on games. Like
Hmm.
I specifically remember, so we were where our form room was upstairs in the art block. Was it the art block?
Oh yeah,
The graphics, whatever. Like the opposite kind of building where the IT
the food
rooms
tech
were.
building that got burnt down.
I think
So
it was maybe in there or one of the rooms upstairs in our block where I remember going on the computer and then like you couldn't get information about new games as readily as we have it available now. And I remember the day that I saw some of the images that came out for Here Comes the Pain and it featured the elimination chamber. Like I lost my shit. I was like,
Hmm.
what? There's gonna be you can play an elimination chamber like in the game. Like it was so, it obviously had not been done before. And I remember specifically, I've got that memory like burned in my brain, like of seeing those kind of images and like seeing Rob Van Dam on the top of the one of the pods.
Yeah,
And
it kind of
yeah,
changed
it
the way we played. That was
yeah, I
back when
mean
you had to get a freaking magazine. You remember
yeah, yeah,
magazines?
yeah. PlayStation Magazine or like some of the ones that probably aren't even in publication anymore. But yeah, but back then a new match type was something that was very hype. Like it was something like something new you were getting. Whereas like now it just feels like it's just the same thing, with just some with the new roster of characters. It's the same game like every year. Occasionally they'll have a year where in recent years it's just been the showcase mode, which is like the story mode, where you
Would
play
I
through a
be?
scenario.
Oh,
Sorry, go on.
that's just saying. Yeah, that kind of sucks. Would I be correct in saying that it's become very similar to the Madden
It is,
games,
yeah.
where they're just
It's a
okay,
franchise. It's a yearly franchise. Like it's similar in terms of gameplay every year. I mean, they might remove one thing one year and then add it back the following year, and then they'll make a big hoopla about it because it's like this is back, and it's like this should have been there in the beginning anyway.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, recently the focus has been like the. For me, I like universe mode because it allows you to kind of make your own universe and kind of totally customizable. You're kind of creating your kind of universe with your little pen and paper, and writing stuff out and getting very dorky about it.
You get to be Vince McMahon.
Yeah, you get to kind of book your own shows and kind of have fun that way. And then one of the other things that is kind of like, I guess the closest thing you can compare it to is like a campaign mode in like Call of Duty or other games is this showcase mode. So you play a certain year as, for example, so at the moment my YouTube series with the 3K16 was from WWE 2K16, where you play as Stone Cold as he's kind of becoming the character. So it's like really well done. So you play matches like historic matches, or the following year it might be, or sorry, I think in 2014 it was like you play as Daniel Bryan on his rise to like becoming champion, and it's kind of very story driven. So you get to relive kind of historic periods of wrestling, which is cool.
Fantastic.
So
Yeah,
that's been
absolutely.
kind of the plus side in recent years. But I'm like, when you talk about Here Comes the Pain, like it was purely like the game in terms
It
of
was
like
just
what
fun.
you could play with your friends, and like the amount of hours we spent playing Here Comes the Pain was really fun. It was very arcadey compared to obviously the games we see now. Like I think there was background music and stuff.
Dun, 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 dun. As soon as you go
Yeah,
into the main menu,
you have
it's
to use the
great.
multi tap to like connect all these controllers.
Oh Jesus Christ! Don't remind me. That
Yeah,
I, bought, I bought that brand new. We went straight to an unknown friend's house. I'm
yeah.
not going to say it on the stream, and that never actually got to my house. Just stayed there, probably to this very day.
Yeah, and that game came out. It's been 17 years now.
Yeah, I mean, we got a good amount of use out of it. Don't regret it. It was just funny.
Yeah, yeah. But it's yeah, it's still there. But I mean, it's a game where we all had our like created superstars. You guys had these dumb Dragon Ball Z lookalikes. Made no sense. It was just the same character, like copied and pasted. That just tried to be OP, and this whole
Hey,
like,
I was trying to be an edgy teenager. Okay.
okay, fine, fine, but we can, at least go off and come up with, we'd. I remember when we used to have like tag team stuff going on, and like we would actually spend time in school coming up with strategies. Like me and H would be like, okay, well we got to take Rishi and Marty, like so we'll attack the leg and
Mm.
make them weaken and do like it was so, it was so fun. It was such a fun and memorable time, for that particular
It,
wrestling game.
yeah, it allowed for a lot of creativity, especially when was it SmackDown where they had the giant fists,
Yeah, so
and you could.
that was that game. So I think that was the one with the
Yeah.
giant fist. It was the one with the helicopter where you play outside and there's
Oh yeah.
you can like hang off the helicopter and do all this really dumb shit that which is
That's the thing. It
fun.
was a lot of. It was definitely like the most game
Gamey,
game of it.
yeah,
They got more realistic after that, and I appreciate that. It's a good simulation, and they got more photogenic and photorealistic. But that one, I think, was the height of just wrestling fun for me,
yeah,
anyway, and probably sounds like for you.
yeah. Even for like a casual fan, you could just pick it up and just have fun with it. Um, but yeah, it was probably one of the best ones, or at least definitely for me one of the more memorable ones in the series. Because
Me
all the
too.
recent ones are just like a blur of the newest superstar. Just the only thing they change is literally the roster. So I don't see what the point is of releasing a new game every year. You might as well just release a patch and charge people for the patch. Or I guess if they want to update roster, which is I think
Problem.
a model that could yeah, go on. What's the problem with that?
I mean, we'll talk about it more another time, I'm guessing. But the problem is for the people who continue to buy it every time. You vote
I
with
didn't
your
buy it.
wallets, people.
I voted
No,
with my
you,
wallet
you
this
don't
year.
vote. Just,
No, no, no. I'm
that's what
saying
I'm
as an
saying.
example. As an example, I have never. I remember even back in school days and stuff. I would always get the WWE game as soon as the day it came out. I would have that. It was like annual tradition. I would have it on the day. This is the first time in like probably since I think the first one was SmackDown 2, and there was one game before that, and then obviously there's like random games like Warzone and ones that we had here and there, but consistently since getting SmackDown 2 for Christmas, every year since then, I've always gotten the annual WWE game. This was the first time where I was like, you know what, I'm not buying it. I don't care if you've got updated characters. It's a broken game. You clearly don't give a shit about the consumers. They don't care about the
Yeah,
players. They literally they could have easily just said, you know what, we've had issues with our developers, so what we're going to do is we're actually not going to release the game this year. We're going to postpone it. But no, they went ahead. They went ahead with their marketing campaign. They still did, and even after the game was out and it was broken, they still had adverts on Raw. And I don't know how they had the balls to even do that. They like adverts for the new 2K20 when it's like it's clearly broken,
yeah,
and you're
and that's
still pushing the marketing on it when you know it doesn't work.
yeah, that's ultimately the saddest thing is that it lost a lot of like actual fans of wrestling of the series. Straight from. I'm pretty sure you. When was the first SmackDown you bought?
The first one I bought was yeah, it must be more than 15 years ago.
Yeah, like long-term fans, and you're probably not
So
the only one, I guess.
no,
It's just
there's
sad.
even creators, like I guess the comparison would be, people that mod games and they're quite known for like creating a wrestler or creating an arena, like creators, like apart members of the community, the creator community, they actually having a very hard time like this year, and some of them even quit after years of making creations through the annual game. It got, and obviously they even get early copies of the game because they're valued members of the 2K community when it comes to like WWE, and I think quite a few of them even just this year just quit.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
So you're losing like important fan base, but yeah, it's weird how things have shifted, from that era to
Yeah.
this era. Back in
Ultimately,
Here Comes the Pain. Sorry, just to cut you off really quickly. In Here Comes the Pain, if you wanted to create superstars, you could actually go on a website. I remember that gave you the formula, and you'd have to manually sit there and get every facial,
oh
every ear and
God, I
every
remember
nose
that.
shape, and if you were really committed, like I was religiously committed to this game. Like I would go and create characters that weren't in the game, like from other places like AJ Styles or Sting, or you actually sit there and use all of these coordinates or whatever. It feels like
Yeah.
coordinates to create
I
like
just,
this character in your game, because obviously sharing through the community creations wasn't a thing back then.
I just love that they had the ability to. Oh, that's what games are mainly about: is allowing people to be creative and have fun. And the new ones just don't have that. Anyway, let's keep it on a happy note. It's
Yeah,
a very happy. We had a lot of fun with that
yeah,
game, and I would
we had
probably still whip it out and play it again sometime. Honestly,
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely, yeah. We should do like a
retro
retro
review. I mean,
kind of a
that's
deal.
not. Yeah,
What's retro reviews? Is that someone else's thing?
I feel like I've heard it. I might be wrong.
I don't know. It's a very common phrase, but anyway, uh,
Yeah,
that was number two. A lot to talk about,
my
and then your number
yeah.
one. We need the top of the food chain. We need the
So
best
it's
game, and it'll
uh,
be funny if if it's the same game as mine. Then I'll tell you, and then we can talk about it.
I don't think it is
Okay.
because I'll be honest, you've already mentioned it, so I don't know what we're going to get out of it. But my number one,
Hold on. Should we do honorable mentions? Because I made a little list before we
quick
hit
list.
the number ones. I've got it written here, so I'm just gonna mention them.
Sure.
So honorable mentions before you give us number one. Your number one, the Airblade demo.
Oh, Airblade was freaking
So
fun.
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't know if you was gonna remember that, but I remember seeing we were playing the demo because I think everyone had the demo, or it was a part of something that everyone had. Like Airblade was just
Yeah,
like it's just like a hoverboard, and you just kind of skate around the skate park, and you make points with like grinding or spinning or doing tricks, and it was just really fun and new at the time for me anyway.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater of the future,
Exactly, yeah. So that gets an
and
honorable mention.
you could use it to fight as well, I think. And you were fighting like this oppressive dystopian regime. think I played the demo when my brother, again, the racing
I don't
games.
remember anything about the story, but yeah.
That's how I know because he would play it a lot. He actually got the full game, and I managed to see. I was like, oh, cool. There's actually it develops. Anyway, next one.
Yeah. The next one is WWF SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, which is technically
Oh
SmackDown
yeah.
3. So this was the first game to come out on PS2, which was obviously the next gen from, after seeing
Mm. I think
what was the SmackDown 2 Know Your Role, which was on the PS1, and then this came out on the PS3. And there was a demo. I didn't have the game initially. I had the demo again. We know back when
mhm.
demos were a big thing. And you had like
Yeah.
Stone Cold, The Rock, and Kane, and I was like, "Holy shit! This is the future. This is what wrestling games look like in the future." And it was like 3D models. They were a lot better than the previous game, and those were the kind of jumps that we expected back then when it came from like year to year wrestling, annual wrestling games. Like there would be a big
Yeah.
increase in
Back
graphics
before they
and
got lazy.
gameplay, in effort. Yeah, or before social media destroyed everything and killed everyone's ability to
Yeah.
concentrate. But anyway,
I think that's where
Persona.
I jumped on as well with
Sorry, man.
shut your mouth. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
next one. Persona.
I will not shut my mouth. I'll continue going through these honorable mentions. Persona 4. So like I mentioned earlier, I wrote it down, but I kind of alluded to the fact that I paid £35 for it sealed.
Mhm.
So it's still like new, and it's on PS2, and I
Sweet.
don't. So I've written next to it in my notes. I've just written, should I play it on PS2? Question mark. So
You
maybe
could
I was meant to
honestly
ask you.
probably sell that for a fair bit, and then I would say play
Yeah,
Persona 5 at this point.
I would be happy to get £35 back for this Persona 4 because it's still sealed. And if you are
Yeah.
interested, then please
Is it Persona?
send me a
Is
message.
it Persona 4 or Persona 4 Golden?
No, it's Persona 4. It's not Golden.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, it's still sealed. I paid £35 for it, with the thought that I'd play it on the PS2. But obviously, things accumulate, and maybe I'll put it up on eBay or something. So what I've done is like on the Twitch page, I've added a nifty little feature now. So if you scroll down on the Twitch page, you can see a little button that says eBay. So if you want to go and click on that, I've got
Hmm.
some things I've listed. So if anyone's interested in supporting our stream, then that's one of the ways where you can get something out of it, and at the same time you'd be helping us.
Yeah, I
Um,
feel like it'll be worth a lot more than 34. It's brand new and sealed. Like
it's
just
sealed, yeah. I
again,
mean,
I don't wanna get your hopes up or anything, but I just googled it right now quickly. It's like one that's over 100 quid right
okay,
now.
well there you go. I'm not even looking to make that much. You know what I mean? Like,
But I mean,
I just
we'll
would
make a
like someone
profit.
to. Well, that's what I'm saying. I'd be happy to get £35 for it. So if it's something that people want, then
Don't
let me
lowball
know.
yourself, man. Anyway, anyway,
Anyway, whatever. We'll see what happens. Next
yeah.
honorable mention goes to a game that I bought at the same time as Persona 4 because this was all at MCM. So I was, the bug hits you and you're like, oh, you know what? I really want to play this game on PS2 because you get all this nostalgia, all these dumb feelings arise, and then next thing you know, you bought PS2. And with the PS2, I got Persona 4, and the next honorable mention is Silent Hill 2. So I got that.
Classic.
I think it was like 10 quid or something. So this one I did actually play. I put it in. I walk around a little bit. And I was like, I don't get it. I'm just not gonna play it. I know that's not a
That's
popular
fair.
opinion, but I put it in and I was like, maybe it's past its prime, maybe it's past its time. I remember playing it, borrowing it from H originally, and you start out in the toilet, and even then, I didn't get out the like I came out the bathroom and I was like,
Oh
I don't
yeah,
get it. It's not my thing. And
turret
then
controls and
yeah,
camera. Yeah.
so I gave it another chance this time around. After another decade or so, bought the game, put it in, and I actually got a bit further along. I was like, I'm just not enjoying it, so maybe I don't know. I don't have any nostalgic connections to it, so maybe just I'll pass on
Yeah,
it. But it gets an
that's
honorable
fair.
mention because I know for a lot of people it's a big deal.
Yeah, and that's the main reason I have the honorable mention of Resident Evil 4 of the other horror
Nice.
franchise. It's just a lot of fun to play. I know the first three were very cheesy in a lot of ways, but they're all like classics. Resident Evil 4 kind of perfected the formula where it was a lot of fun. It was well made, and just a good game overall.
Did you
Anyway,
ever finish any Resident Evil games?
no, I'm a massive coward.
I finished only one.
Hmm.
Um, so me and H were so the one I finished was the Resident Evil 5. We still have a copy of that thing on PS3.
Oh, you actually know you're right. I finished 5 and 6 because I got to play them in co-op with my friend who was not a coward.
Oh, okay, cool,
Yeah,
nice.
Resident Evil 5 was great.
I actually never finished 5, but I remember playing it with H. When we were a bit younger and under the influence of I don't know what, maybe we were drinking or something. But we were basically doing a bit where um, So we didn't have any weapons, but it's quite early in the game. So you're with Shiva and you're
Oh
Chris.
yeah, you just walking
You're
around.
you're in
Yeah.
a room. Yeah, you're in a room in Kenya or somewhere. I don't remember exactly where. But like you start to get attacked, right? And so the horde of zombies coming in or whatever they're called, they start coming in. You're trying to board up the doors and stuff. And then we just stood there, just using the knife, just kept stabbing for like 20 minutes. And then we died. And then we tried it again, and it didn't work. And then we just found out that all you had to do was go outside the hut and go in the alleyway, and then
Oh yeah.
it would load
It's
the
it's it's,
cutscene.
it's a
I'll
it's
never
a run,
forget.
not gun.
I'll never forget that memory. We just stood there with knives, just constantly killing everything that came in, and then eventually getting overrun, and then discovering that you actually just had to move out of the room and down the alleyway. So, but yeah,
See, even if you don't,
I did finish that.
you can have fun, especially in co-op, because a lot of people weren't happy with their game, but it was definitely a fun co-op experience.
Yeah.
My
Sorry.
my
Go.
number one.
Hold
I
on.
kind
I've
of
got
have to
three.
finish
I've
up
got
soon,
three.
sorry.
I've got three.
I
Okami.
Okami. I saw my friend play that, and it looked so beautiful.
Futurama. I didn't even know that was a thing, but yeah, I'm putting up my
Oh, yeah.
memorable,
I wanted
honorable
to play
mentions.
that. It looked interesting.
And lastly, Legends of Wrestling, which I have no idea how they got the legal copyright to do what the fuck they
Yeah.
pulled off, because I don't know how you're getting all of these wrestlers and putting them into a game. Like I want to actually maybe look into how they managed to get wrestlers from different promotions likenesses into a game where
Yeah, that must have been
I don't know. I don't know how that must have been a logistical nightmare. I don't know how they did that, but yeah, Legends of Wrestling. So yes, you're number one.
My number one, it's going to be a bit anticlimactic because we've already talked about it so much, but my favorite PS2 game was Final Fantasy X.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. So that's good because it actually saves us some time. So if you want to listen to how great Final Fantasy X is, you can go to one of our other streams or one of our other videos on YouTube, or you can even just rewind and listen to us
Yeah.
just talk about Final. We've talked about Final Fantasy a lot, 10 a lot. So I don't think there's
It's on
much
both
to
our
say.
top
But
10 lists.
if you want to add something, yeah, it's on both of our lists. If you want to add
Even now,
some kind of
after-
some kind of cherry
Even-
on the cake to this Final Fantasy X thing.
even right now, after deciding finally I'm never going to play it again, I'm just going to leave it at Happy Memory, I still have the desire to play it after all these years. So I'd say
Brilliant.
that speaks for itself. It's just beautiful. I say that a lot, but I'm very much into artistic things.
Genius. It's just a genius game. It's just brilliant.
Yeah.
Waka's a uber racist, but the main
He
isn't
gets
that
over it.
isn't that the whole thread? It's just basically his racism and how he's able to overcome it. I think that's the story.
That's his character arc.
That's the underlying story of his character. But yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. That's a very worthy number one.
Thank you.
My number
Far
one.
more importantly, yes, your number one.
Well, it's
Drum roll.
not far more importantly, but I'm surprised that we actually haven't, or no one's mentioned it, because I think
Oh,
this
yeah?
is like, I don't know, it changed the landscape and pretty much invented sandbox gaming, and it's still really playable
Oh.
today. Not to mention the
Ah.
personal story that I associate with this game, but my number one is 2001's GTA 3.
Beautiful. Love it.
The personal
See-
story attached to it is that you and Marty broke H's bed while we went in the room.
Yeah, there's a love-hate relationship.
But that was the first time I'd ever played it, like at his place. Seeing GTA 3, and you're like, what? You can actually like live in this?
Yeah, you can move around. You can 3 dimensions. What?
Yeah, you can freely go wherever you want. There's like radios in the car, like you can change radio stations. It's like
So much other. Just before we move on, the context for that, fighting that we were actually fighting over the controller because we both wanted to play this game so much. That's why that's how good the game was.
Yeah.
Hence the breaking.
Yeah, so they ended up like doing some damage in H's room. But obviously, I went back to school and told everyone something else. So obviously,
Naturally, yeah, we
And,
really
yeah.
appreciate that.
yeah, I mean, kids, eh? What are you gonna do? But yeah, that was the first time I'd played. I don't know about you guys, but I think
See,
because I played
this
GTA
would
2
have
at
been my
your
top
house.
10. Yeah, this would have been on my top 10 list, but I played it on PC long before this.
Okay.
So I got a free pass on that one.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. I played GTA 2, I think first time was with you, and I remember the mission where you have to collect people on a bus and then take them to a meat grinder and then turn them into hot dogs, and then you sell these hot dogs. Like, it was really fucked up.
There was a...
And it was
people
a
always
bird's eye view, I think that game was.
Yeah, GTA 1 or 2. This was like before GTA. When GTA 3 came out, it became mainstream, and then the whole controversy, really took off. But it was so much worse before then. People didn't even know.
I mean, it would be interesting to look back on some of that stuff and see kind of what were some of the intricate like side stuff and storyline wise. Be
That
interesting,
could
but
be a
like,
fun game.
but like with
If it's
three,
on, yeah,
sorry, go on.
if it's on PS4, it'd be fun to play, in the background because it's just so simple.
Oh, you
It's not
mean
like
one or
heavy
two?
story or cutscene. One or two, yeah. Maybe one then two. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I would play that again. The GTA 3, I think, was. Yeah, I mean, come
Iconic.
on, it was the first sandbox, wasn't it? Like, I mean, I can't think of.
Definitely was. I mean, if there were other experiments, this was the
Yeah,
first
but no
big
one
one
cared about
that
those
defined
games.
the genre. Exactly, yeah. This defined the genre.
This is the
It
reason why
it
we have like
created
Red Dead
sandbox
2.
games. This is why for the next 10 years, every new game was called, oh, it's a GTA clone.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, there's been like others. There's been like Saints Row. Saints Row is a lot of fun in its own ways. It's the Yakuza, but the granddaddy was Grand Theft Auto 3, I think.
Yeah, that's where it all
Um,
began.
I still have the map in my mind, like I can still get to anywhere, more or less. Like at the
Oh,
time, it
yeah.
was such a big world, because you're trying to learn the three islands and stuff. But like, it's so tiny now compared to some of the open world games we have, and I don't know. Maybe it's a credit to this. Was where it started. Like,
Mm,
open world gaming even.
that's where it all began.
It was a catalyst, let's say. Maybe not the reason, but it was
Yes.
definitely a catalyst for how games went.
Catalyst is a good word.
So let's just quickly go through your top 10, yeah? So at 10, you had Shadow of the Colossus. At 9, you
Mm,
had God of War 2. At 8, you had Dragon Quest 8.
hmm
At number 7, you had Jack and Daxter 3. At
hmm
number 6, you had Canis Lupus Bupus Bully. At number 5, you had DMC 3, or Devil May Cry 3. At Persona 3 was your number 4. And then at number
hmm
3, you had MGS 3. And Peace Walker. You made some on-the-fly amendments.
hmm
And then at number 2, you had Legend of Legaia Dual Sagas, which should not be ahead of MGS3, but then again, no, I'm just kidding. It's your list. And then number
hmm
1, it was Final Fantasy X. I cannot disagree with that. Um,
Yeah,
for me,
another iconic game. Yep. Good.
I had two Tekken entries actually. So Tekken 5 at number 10, and then I had at number 7 Tekken Tag Tournament. My number 9 was Simpsons Hit and Run. Number 8 was Medal of Honor Frontline. Number 6 was MGS2. Number 5 was Final Fantasy X. It wasn't my top 5, definitely.
Mhm.
Number 4 was MGS3. Number 3 was Need for Speed Underground 2. Sentimental reasons, similar to number 2, which was Here Comes the Pain. And number 1 is GTA 3. I think we did a pretty good job in terms of the list,
I'd
because
say so.
there's so many good games on PS2, and if you guys have some that you think we might have missed out, well, we don't really care. What we want you to do is just leave a comment in the comment section with some of your favorite PS2 games.
Yeah, give us your top tens or your top fives or your top
No, I
three.
didn't. I didn't ask for that much. Come on, let's just be reasonable. No, I'm kidding. You can do whatever you want in the comment section, like,
Get
subscribe, do all
creative.
that good stuff. But next
I'd
time
always
we're
like to.
here, sorry, go on, go
Mhm.
on, go on.
I
What?
always like to hear about new hidden gems that people, they might have been the only one in their whole school that played, but to them it was a
Yeah.
life-changing experience. That's always nice to hear about.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, PS2 was it was one of the best generations. Like, there was so much in a time where like competition was a real thing. Like, if you wanted to play Splinter Cell, you went that way. If you wanted to play MGS, you go this way. You know,
Yeah, I
there was
think it's still the world's most number one selling console.
I think it was until recently, but then again, don't quote me on that.
Mm,
But yeah, for the longest time, yes, that is correct.
yeah.
Um,
Anyway, I got to wrap it up now.
yeah. So if you enjoyed what you heard, do all the good stuff, and next time, whenever that may be, I don't know what the state of the world is right now, but next
Oh
time,
yeah,
hopefully, we'll be on schedule, and Victor will be explaining Warhammer to me.
that'll be interesting.
So until
I
next
don't know.
time,
Stay safe, everyone.
take care of yourselves and each other.